This is The Cut, American Whiskey, Daily. A bourbon just spent 27 months on vacation. Bardstown Bourbon Company finished a 10-year bourbon in pineapple rum casks for over 2 years before bottling it. Fewer than 350 cases exist, and every one of them is staying in Kentucky. I'm John from Chasing the Unicorn podcast. Here's what moved today, July 28, 2026. Bardstown Bourbon Company just launched something it's calling the Finishing Series, and the first bottle out the door is a real swing. It's a blend of 10 and 11-year bourbon plus 11-year rye, and instead of the usual 6 to 12 months in a second barrel, they left it in pineapple rum casks for 27 months. Over 2 years. Bottled at 106 proof, priced at $139.99, capped under 350 cases nationally, and none of it is leaving Kentucky. Here's why the length matters. A long finish is a bet against itself. Leave whiskey in a flavored cask too long, and the cask can swallow the bourbon underneath it. You end up tasting rum and pineapple with barely a whisper of the base spirit. So why take that risk? Because Bardstown published exactly what's in the blend before it ever touched the second barrel. 10 and 11-year bourbon, 11-year rye. You're not guessing what got finished, you know going in. That's what gives a 27-month cask stay more credibility than most. The distillery had less to hide, so it had less reason to worry about the finish covering something up. Now, today's label room. This is where we look at what just cleared federal review, and today there's a filing that's a little unusual. Kentucky Peerless put in a single-barrel rye label this week that does something most labels don't. It doesn't just list a barrel number and a warehouse name, it puts the exact rickhouse floor position right on the federally approved label. Rick 4, Floor 6. That's the kind of detail that's usually word of mouth, something a tasting room employee might mention if you ask. Peerless just put it in writing, on paper the government signed off on. Here's why that's not just a curiosity. Floor position actually changes how a barrel ages. Top floors run hot, more heat cycling, faster extraction, bigger, bolder whiskey, usually faster. Bottom floors stay cooler, age slower, and tend to come out gentler. Every single barrel program has always known this internally. Almost none of them have ever put it on the bottle. So when a label says Rick 4, Floor 6, that's not decoration, that's a real data point about how this specific barrel spent its life, disclosed on the front of the package instead of buried in a spec sheet nobody sees. Is it a real get or a trophy label? I'd call it a real get, with a catch. Peerless hasn't announced a release date or a price yet, and this thing still has to clear final approval before it hits a shelf. But if it clears as filed, it's a rare shot at a single barrel bottle where the aging math isn't a mystery, it's printed right on the front. So here's what it is. After a bourbon finishes its main aging, some distilleries give it a second life in a different kind of barrel. Rum, port, sherry, cognac, for anywhere from a few months to, in Bardstown's case this week, a couple of years. That's finishing. Done well, it adds something on top of a bourbon that was already good. You taste the base whiskey first, and the finish arrives after, like an echo. Done poorly, the finish just covers up a thin whiskey underneath, and all you get is flavored cask. The tell is simple. Can you still taste the bourbon under the finish, or is the fruit and the cask all there is? That's the whole test, every time, regardless of how long the finish ran. What this changes, a long finishing time isn't automatically a red flag. It's a bet, and the bet is only as good as the whiskey underneath it. A distillery willing to publish its base ages before finishing has less reason to use a long cask stay to hide something. That's the lens. Use it on the next long finish bottle you see, not just this one. Also in this window, if you want to log a pour like this one, drop it in your perfect pour logbook and watch how your pour print handles a cask-finished whiskey differently than a straight bourbon entry. ThePerfectPourApp.com, it's available now. So, here's the move. If you're in Kentucky, the Bardstown Victoria Pineapple is a one-visit bottle. It's not going to show up at your usual online retailer, and it's not shipping out of state. Check the distillery's gift shop and Kentucky licensed retailers directly, and don't wait. 350 cases nationally disappears fast once word gets around. If you're not in Kentucky, this one just isn't your bottle this week, and that's fine. Save the 27-month number. When the next long finish crosses your radar, ask the same question you'd ask here. Did they tell you what was underneath before they finished it? One more thing. Here's the one thing to carry out of today. The interesting story right now isn't which bottle is hardest to find. It's which distilleries are willing to show their work. A 27-month finish with disclosed base ages. A single barrel label with the floor position printed on it. Neither one needed to tell you that much. Both did anyway. That's worth noticing, and it's worth rewarding with where you spend. That's The Cut. The full American whiskey industry brief is free every morning at chasingtheunicornpodcast.com. I'm John Schuster. Thanks for joining me. Your unicorn is out there.